Imagine yourself lying down, about to fall asleep. The outside world begins to dissolve and breathing becomes slower, deeper. In this state, something invisible but deeply real happens. You cross the threshold between the conscious and the subconscious. This is where magic begins. Not the magic of tricks or illusions, but the magic that shapes destinations, cures invisible wounds, and opens doors that you didn't even know existed. Throughout life, we have been conditioned to believe that change happens through conscious effort, working harder, thinking more, planning more. However, science and spirituality converge on a surprising truth. Your reality is not shaped so much for what you think consciously, but for what you believe. Feel and keep it recorded in your subconscious. The subconscious is like a vast, deep, and mysterious ocean that carries in itself both destructive currents and creative forces. And during sleep, it opens in all its extension. When you hear words, phrases, and images carefully chosen while falling asleep, something powerful happens. The critical filter of the conscious mind begins to relax. The barriers of skepticism fall, and what you hear penetrates straight into the deepest layers of your mind. It is like planting seeds on fertile soil. Each word becomes an invisible root, growing silently until it emerges in the form of new habits, new perceptions, and new miracles. But what does it mean to attract miracles? Perhaps you imagine great events such as instant healing or riches falling from heaven. These miracles also exist, but the real miracle is much more subtle and at the same time much more great. It is the transformation from the inside out. It is waking up in peace even without nothing changing around. It is to feel clarity in situations that once seemed impossible. It is to experience synchronics, those perfect coincidences that seem to have been organized by the universe itself. These are signs that the subconscious is realizing the infinite intelligence. Think about how you got here. How many times did you repeat mentally that you were not capable, that I had no luck, that it was not worthy of something bigger? These phrases, repeated over the years, have become invisible programs that direct their lives. The subconscious does not judge, does not question. He only accepts and manifests. So when you fall asleep to the sound of new ideas, new beliefs, and new images, you are reprogramming the basis of your existence. Napoleon Hill once said, "What man's mind can conceive and believe, she can achieve." This phrase, repeated in a calm and constant voice during sleep, is not just a beautiful statement. It is a reminder that the miracle is not external. It happens when your inner mind accepts as truth what you want to live. Spiritual transformation begins at this point, by recognizing that you are not just the body that lies, not just the thoughts that arise and disappear. You are the consciousness you observe, you choose, you create. And when you choose to plant miracles in the subconscious garden, life responds. Accordingly, imagine for a moment that each night is a sacred ceremony. The darkness of the room is not just the absence of light. It is the space where the invisible works. Silence is not empty. It is the soft music that allows the subconscious to listen. And sleep is not just rest. It is the bridge that connects you to infinity. In this nightly temple, the words you listen to become vivid prayers shaping your reality from the inside out. That's why listening to this audiobook is not just entertainment. It is a practice, a ritual. Each phrase that enters your ears as you sleep in sleep acts like a key, unlocking doors that were locked. Doors of trust, prosperity, healing, and of purpose. You may not immediately see what happens. It may even doubt in the early days. But just as a seed needs time to sprout, miracles also reveal themselves at the right time. Personal transformation, in turn, is the reflection of this internal change. As the subconscious is purified from beliefs of fear and limitation, you perceive a new energy guiding your steps. Situations that once made him anxious now seem easier to face. Different people begin to appear in their lives, bringing unexpected opportunities. And above all, you feel a quiet confidence, as if you know you are being sustained by something bigger than yourself. This confidence is not naive. It is born from the direct experience of seeing small miracles accumulating. Perhaps it is to find exactly the book I needed, receive a call at the right time, or simply wake up with a sense of peace that cannot explain. These signs are reminders. Your subconscious is in tune with universal Intelligence. Upon hearing this audiobook tonight, you are saying to the universe, I'm ready to change. And this decision itself already opens invisible doors. Because deep down, it is not the audio that creates the miracle. It is your willingness to open to Him. It is your delivery to the process. It is your yes silent to transformation. Then while the night advances and their eyelids become heavy, allow themselves to relax. Release the weight of the day. Inhale deep, and when expanding, imagine that each concern is being dissolved. Let the words flow smoothly, like a calm river that crosses your mind. There is no effort, there is no fight, just receptivity. And know, with each breath, every heartbeat, you are closer to a new version of yourself. A version that already exists within you, waiting for the right time to wake up. This is the promise of this first step, that upon hearing while sleeping, you begin to attract miracles not as something distant but as an inevitable reality. Because when the subconscious accepts the truth of who you are, the whole universe conspires to confirm this truth. When you close your eyes at night, you can believe that sleep is just a temporary turning off your body and mind. But in fact, sleep is the moment when the subconscious assumes full control. The conscious, with his judgments, criticism, and concerns, shuts up. The subconscious, free of interruptions, begins to work, organize, heal, and program. That's why, when choosing what comes into your mind before and during sleep, you are literally writing your tomorrow's chapters. Think of the subconscious as a tireless gardener. During the day, he collects the seeds you throw, words said to yourself, repeated images, emotions felt. At night, when the conscious mind retreats, the gardener begins to plant. If you spent the day in anxiety, criticism, and self-sabotage, it plants seeds of fear and scarcity. But if you feed your mind with confidence, gratitude, and positive statements, the gardener sows peace, abundance, and miracles. Listening to this audiobook before bed is like giving the gardener a new package of seeds of transformation. Night reprogramming is more effective than any conscious effort you make during the day. This is because in sleep you get in slower brainwaves, alpha, theta, and sometimes even delta. At these frequencies, the mind is highly suggestible. It is as if the doors of the subconscious opened and say, "What do you want me to accept as truth?" In this state, you can plant statements such as, I am worthy of miracles. My life is aligning with abundance. I am guided by infinite wisdom. Upon hearing these repeated phrases in a calm voice, your mind not only understands but absorbs. It is like water that penetrates the soil. And over time, seeds germinate in the form of new behaviors, new opportunities, and new perceptions. You may ask yourself, what if I don't believe in these statements? This is a common doubt. But remember, the subconscious does not require immediate faith. It only receives what is constantly repeated. It is like a child who learns a new language. At first it looks strange, difficult, almost impossible. But upon hearing repeatedly, one day the child simply speaks. This happens to the subconscious. You don't have to force you to believe. You just need to open to hear night after night. Spiritual transformation reveals itself in this process. Because by replacing old and limiting beliefs with new truths, you are not just changing thoughts, you are changing your identity. You start to recognize yourself not as a victim of circumstances, but as a creator of reality. What before seemed coincidence begins to seem synchronicity, and what seemed before impossible begins to seem natural. Think of miracles not as rare exceptions, but as signs of alignment. The real miracle is not that something unlikely happens, but that you wake up to realize that you have always been surrounded by abundance. It's like being in a dark room and suddenly light the light. The room has not changed. What changed was your perception. The same is true when you reprogram the subconscious. You see doors that have always been there but once looked like walls. Personal transformation, in turn, is the visible proof of this invisible work. You begin to notice minor changes in your behavior. Maybe you wake up calmer. Perhaps respond with patience in situations that once aroused anger. Perhaps realize that you no longer need to insist on relationships or patterns that no longer resonate with who you really are. Each little change is like a flower that springs in the garden that you have been cultivating night after night. Does not underestimate the power of repetition. A single night can plant a seed, but it is the constancy that creates deep roots. This is why this audiobook should not be heard only once, but as a ritual. Each repetition is like an extra layer of paint in a painting. Over time, the picture gains shape, color, and beauty. The subconscious learns better by repetition, not by intensity. There is an old wisdom that says, "We are what we repeatedly do." Excellence, so it's not an act but an habit. Upon hearing words of power and transformation night after night, you create the habit of feeding the subconscious with excellence. The result is inevitable. Your life becomes a reflection of what you repeatedly plant. While sleeping, the subconscious not only accepts new ideas but also reorganizes memories and healing emotional wounds. Often you can wake up with the feeling of lightness, not knowing exactly why. This is because during sleep, the subconscious found a new way of interpreting past events, releasing the emotional burden that held it. Listening to words of forgiveness, acceptance, and love at night accelerates this healing process. With each passing night, you are not just resting. You are recreating yourself. It is leaving behind old standards and making room for new miracles. And over time, this silent and seemingly simple practice becomes the basis of a new life. Remember, transformation does not happen in large explosions of change, but in small and consistent reprogramming. One night may seem little, but 100 nights create a new destination. It is like a drop that falls on the stone. At first it seems to have no effect, but over time he paves a deep way. Such is the power of the subconscious. By surrendering to this process, you are not just listening to an audiobook. You are participating in a silent pact with life, the pact of allowing the invisible to work in your favor. It's saying, "I'm ready to receive. I'm ready to be transformed." And life, faithful to his answer, begins to move toward him. So when you lie down tonight, remember, each word is a seed. Each repetition is care. Each night is a cycle of death and rebirth in which the old man dissolves and the new begins to flourish. This is the true miracle, not changing the world around it magic, but awakening to the fact that the world has always reflected what you believe to be possible. When you keep listening, allow this truth to become part of who you are, because when the subconscious accepts the miracle as natural, the miracle becomes inevitable. When walking through life, you can believe that the events around you are the result of chance. But when he begins to consciously work with the subconscious, a different perception proves nothing is random. Everything that happens has an invisible wire that connects causes and effects, thoughts and experiences, desires and results. This wire is silently fabric for its subconscious. Imagine the subconscious as an invisible antenna. During the day, he captures every thought, every emotion, every intention. At night, this antenna emits subtle waves that reach the field around. It is in this field that reality begins to organize. Scientists call the quantum field. Mystics call ether. You can call it divine intelligence. The name matters little. The essential thing is to realize that your mind is not an isolated mechanism. It is in constant dialogue with the universe. And how does this dialogue manifest itself? Through synchronicities. You think of a person and she turns on. You imagine an opportunity and suddenly it appears. You ask for clarity and find exactly the book or message you needed. These are signs that the subconscious is aligned with greater intelligence. Synchronicity is the secret language of life, revealing that the invisible is always in action. When you hear words of power during sleep, you are not just changing internally. He is also tuning his antenna. It is as if the subconscious were a musical instrument. If challenged, he produces noise, attracting confusion and chaos. But when reprogrammed with high beliefs, he vibrates in harmony. And this harmony attracts experiences that combine with its new frequency. Spiritual transformation happens when you understand that you no longer need to fight life. On the contrary, you need to learn to align with her. While the conscious tries to control every detail, the subconscious connects to the whole. He knows when to open doors, when to close ways, when to approach people. To trust in this process is to take a step beyond logic. It is diving into the mystery with faith. But faith here is not blind. It is born of practical observation. The more you practice night reprogramming, the more you realize the increase in synchronicities. And little by little, this repetition becomes proof. It's no longer just a belief but a direct experience. You see the universe responding to your inner state. Personal transformation at this point is inevitable. You stop reacting desperately in the face of challenges and start asking, what is this situation trying to show me? Instead of feeling a victim of the circumstances, you act as co-creator. This is a leap of conscience, recognizing that life is not happening against you, but through you. During sleep, this understanding is rooted deeper. While the conscious is lost in analysis, the subconscious absorbs the wisdom that everything is connected. So when you wake up, you often have the feeling that you know what to do, even without actively thought about the problem. It is as if the answer came ready, blown by a silent intelligence. This is the power of the night. It not only rests the body but recreates fate. Every sentence you hear, every mental image you cultivate before bed is like a line sewn in the fabric of reality. And over time, this fabric reveals a more beautiful pattern, more consistent with who you want to be. Think of the subconscious as a mirror of your faith. If you believe in the impossible, he finds ways to make it possible. If you believe nothing changes, it reinforces the stagnation cycle. But by opening up to the idea that miracles can be natural, you give permission to the universe to act. It is not you who force the miracle. It is you who authorizes you. Spiritual traditions have always known this. From prayers before bed to the mantras repeated in silence, they all point to the same principle. What you put in the subconscious at night shape your life during the day. It is like writing a letter and sending it to infinity. In the morning, the answer is already moving. This constant practice generates not only personal, but also spiritual transformations. You start to feel part of something larger, guided by invisible forces. This perception does not alien him from practical life. On the contrary, it makes it more present. You act more calmly, decide more clearly, love more depth, because you understand that you are not alone. And in realizing this, gratitude comes spontaneously. You start to thank you not only for what you already have, but for what has not yet manifested. Gratitude becomes its form of communication with the universe, and the universe responds abundantly. Listening to this audiobook, remember, is not just a voice that speaks. It is the seed of transformation being launched on fertile ground. Each word is like a drop that falls into a quiet lake, creating waves that expand far beyond what you can see. These waves meet with others, resonate in the invisible field, and return to you in the form of opportunities, meetings, and miracles. And so spiritual and personal transformation happens without forced effort. You do not need to force yourself to believe, nor if you charge immediate results. You just need to trust the process and allow life to surprise you. In the end, you will realize that the real miracle is not to change everything around, but change the way you see and relate to reality. Because when your vision changes, the world changes with you. Therefore, as you keep listening, allow yourself to relax more deeply. Imagine that it is connecting to an invisible fabric made of light and energy that extends throughout the universe. And know, each night is an opportunity to rewrite your story, a transformation chapter that begins in the silence of sleep and flourishes in the clarity of awakening. If you stop to observe, you will realize that much of what you do every day is not born of conscious decisions but of automatic standards. You wake up, follow a routine, think repeated thoughts, react in similar ways. More than 90% of your life is conducted by habits. And these habits are not only external actions but also ways of feeling, believing, and interpreting reality. All of this is rooted in the subconscious. The subconscious is the invisible architect of his identity. While the conscious says, "I want to change," the subconscious replies, "But I am like this." And almost always, he is the one who wins. This explains why so many attempts at conscious change fail. You decide to be calmer but explode in the face of a provocation. Decides to prosper but unconsciously sabotage his opportunities. Decides to love more but relive old wounds. The problem is not in your intention, but in the hidden program that supports your identity. This is why night work is so powerful. While sleeping, you are not just resting, is having access to the core of your identity. Each word that enters, every image you accept, slowly form a new perception of who you are. And when perception changes, behavior changes naturally, without forced effort. Think of a child who learns to walk. She doesn't have to rationally convince herself that she can. Her subconscious, programmed by the repetition of attempts, records, "I am someone who can walk." From that moment on, walking is no longer a conscious effort, but part of the identity. So it also happens to you. In repeating night after night ideas of abundance, trust, and purpose, your subconscious records, "I am someone who attracts miracles. I am someone who deserves to prosper. I am someone in peace." This change is subtle at first, almost imperceptible. But over time it begins to manifest in small choices. You start to react differently, to realize opportunities you once ignored, to position yourself more clearly. These small changes form a new behavior. And when behaviors change, their identity is consolidated in a new version. Spiritual transformation arises when you understand that you are not a slave to the old programs. You are not the sum of the mistakes of the past, nor the limitations that others have put on you. You are evolving awareness capable of rewriting your own identity. The subconscious is just the repository of the stories you have accepted so far. But every night you can insert new chapters, new narratives, new truths. Many spiritual masters point to this when they say lighting is not to acquire something new, but remove illusions about who you thought you were. The subconscious carries these illusions. I'm not good enough. I have no value. I will never change. By replacing these beliefs with new seeds, you are not becoming someone else. It is just revealing the essence of who has always been. The identity that the subconscious creates is not only psychological, but also energetic. Each belief generates a vibration. If you believe you are small, vibrates in scarcity. It is believed to be abundant, vibrates in expansion. The universe responds to this vibration. So when you change your internal identity, the field around you reorganizes. People, circumstances, and opportunities align with the new frequency you issue. The personal transformation is consolidated at this point. You stop depending on willpower only to change. Instead of fighting yourself, you align with the new identity being formed. It is like rowing against the current versus navigating with the flow. When the subconscious is programmed to support their desires, the effort decreases and the results multiply. But here there is a crucial detail. The subconscious learns more from emotional experience than by logic. It is not enough just to repeat phrases, you need to feel them. This is why listening in a relaxed state close to sleep is so effective. At this point, the conscious mind surrenders and the subconscious absorbs not only words but the energy and emotion behind them. If you hear "I am worthy of miracles" and allows itself to feel, even for a moment, the emotion of this truth, the subconscious records as reality. This process is reflected in every aspect of life. In health, you begin to believe that the body is able to heal, and signs of well-being arise. In finances, you see yourself as someone deserving of abundance, and opportunities begin to appear. In relationships, you recognize yourself worthy of true love, and healthier connections manifest themselves. All this is not because the external world has suddenly changed, but because its internal identity has changed. It's like changing the lens of a glasses. If before you see life through the limitation lens, now you see through the lens of possibility. The reality itself has not changed. What changed was your perception. And as perception shapes choices, their experiences also change. In the silence of the night, this work happens invisibly but powerful. While you sleep, your subconscious is being rewritten. Each word is a brick, every repetition a new wall, until an entire house, its renewed identity, is built. When you wake up, you are no longer exactly the same. It may not notice right away, but something has changed. A discrete confidence, sudden clarity, a sense of purpose. These are the signs that your identity is aligning yourself with what you always wanted to be. This process does not require perfection, only consistency. Even if one night you doubt, another night you believe, the subconscious accumulates the seeds. The garden may take time to flourish, but when it flourishes, it is impossible to ignore the transformation. By understanding this mechanism, you realize that you have the most powerful key to existence, the ability to choose your identity. You are not stuck with what you lived or what you said about you. Each night is a new opportunity to create, to sow, to reborn. And by assuming this practice as part of your life, you not only transform behaviors but also awaken to your true nature. Because deep down, your identity is not something you build, but something you find out. The subconscious is only the soil where this truth can flourish. So far, you have understood that the subconscious is the basis of identity, the invisible architect of reality. But an inevitable question arises. How does this inner transformation translate into practical results? How does it manifest itself in the visible world, in abundance, in healthier relationships, in clarity of purpose? The answer is at the universal principle of correspondence. The interior always precedes the exterior. When the subconscious is reprogrammed, the around the world begins to respond naturally. It is not a magic in the childish sense, but an alignment between internal vibration and external experience. Imagine that your life is like a mirror. If you smile at him, the reflection smiles back. Frets the forehead, the reflection returns the same expression. The subconscious is the face you present to the universe. If he is full of fear, the reflection will be of situations that confirm this fear. If it is full of trust, the reflection will be of experiences that support this confidence. In the field of abundance, this becomes evident. When you come to see yourself as someone worthy of prospering, the subconscious begins to attract opportunities that once seemed invisible. A casual conversation can turn into partnership. A forgotten idea can generate a lucrative project. A new energy moves him to make decisions that open unexpected doors. None of this happens by coincidence. It is the reflection of the new program installed inside. In love, the process is similar. Many people spend their lives seeking in the other the validation they do not find in themselves. But when the subconscious accepts the belief that you are worthy of true love, your energy changes. You stop accepting emotional crumbs and attract more authentic connections. Superficial relationships lose space and deep bonds begin to emerge. The miracle is not in making the other change, but in changing the way you see yourself. This silent change reorganizes relationships. As for the purpose, the subconscious plays an even more crucial role. Many live clearly about what they came to do in the world, feeling lost or disconnected. But by reprogramming the mind with messages of trust and direction, something comes on. The subconscious, free from the voices of fear and doubt, begins to reveal what was already inscribed in his being: talents, passions, and so-called interiors. Suddenly, what seemed confused becomes clear. You feel a natural boost of following a specific path, as if guided by force. Azure. This process of manifestation is not instantaneous but progressive. It's like lighting a lamp in a dark room. At first you see only a few objects, but as light spreads it perceives the whole environment. This happens with miracles. They start small in everyday details until they become a new way of living. Spiritual transformation at this point is deep. You stop seeking only results and live in a state of trust. Instead of asking, when will it happen, you say, it's already happening. This change in perspective reduces anxiety and increases receptivity. You do not force life, you allow life to flow. Personal transformation, in turn, is the testimony of this new reality. People around you begin to notice. They say you look lighter, safer, more serene. Situations that once made him lose their balance now seem smaller, almost irrelevant. This change is not staged, it is authentic. It comes from the subconscious, which no longer carries the same weights as before. The secret is to understand that the subconscious not only creates thoughts, but also impulses of action. Believing that it is worthy of abundance, you naturally make different decisions. Believing it deserves love, you naturally choose healthier relationships. Believing that you have a purpose, you naturally move toward it. This coherence between belief and action is what makes miracles visible. Many think that manifesting is just imagining until something appears. But the true manifestation is the fusion between internal belief and inspired action. The reprogrammed subconscious does not leave him standing still. He guides him for choices that reflect his new identity. It is like a compass that silently points to the true north. This process also brings a sense of harmony. You no longer feel that you need to compete or fight to get it. Instead, he realizes that the universe cooperates. The right doors open at the right time, the right people cross their way, and the right ideas come up when you need it most. This state of flow is the miracle in action. But perhaps the most transformative aspect is inner peace. Because in the end, abundance, love, and purpose are reflections of something greater, the connection with the source. When the subconscious aligns with this source, you no longer have to look outside what already exists inside. Abundance is not only financial, but emotional and spiritual. Love is not only romantic, but the energy that sustains every human encounter. The purpose is not just a career, but the expression of who you really are. This peace does not mean absence of challenges. The challenges continue to emerge, but you no longer look at them as enemies. Instead of resisting, you learn from them. Each obstacle becomes an opportunity to reaffirm its new identity. And by crossing these tests, you further strengthen your connection with the transformed subconscious. Listening to this audiobook every night, you are feeding this transformation. Each word is a reminder of who you can be. Each repetition is an anchor that fixes the new reality. Over time, you will no longer have to be convinced of anything. Will be living naturally what once seemed distant. This is the real miracle. Realize that you don't have to look outside what is already inside. Abundance, love, and purpose are not achievements to be persecuted, but expressions of a state of being. And this state is born from the subconscious aligned with the greater consciousness. So when falling asleep tonight, you give the certainty that it is already abundant, is already loved, is already on the right track. Allow this truth to settle in your subconscious as a flame that never goes out. Because when the flame lights up, the whole world reflects its light. Every true change needs to go through an essential phase: integration. It is not enough just to hear words of power overnight or feel hope in times of inspiration. Spiritual and personal transformation only becomes permanent when it goes from the occasional state of experience to the condition of constant identity. And this is where the work with the subconscious reveals its deepest value. What you plant at night blooms day. But for the fruit to be consistent, it is necessary to water daily with conscience, gratitude, and aligned choices. Each morning you wake up carrying invisible seeds. Some are old fruits of past beliefs. Others are new, fruits of what was planted in the subconscious during sleep. Integration consists of nourishing the right seeds so that they grow and dominate the garden. The process begins with attention. When something challenges him, his immediate reaction shows which program is active. If you react with fear, it is a sign that an old program is still operating. If you respond with confidence, it means that the new program is already blooming. At this point, you have a choice: reinforce the old or consolidate the new. It is in this silent choice, repeated every day, that the identity is shaped. Spiritual integration happens when you realize that each situation is an opportunity to practice your new conscience. Congested traffic can be seen as an invitation to patience. A difficult conversation can be a lesson of compassion. A financial challenge can be an exercise of trust. Instead of resisting, you ask, how can this experience reinforce the identity I chose to live? Personal integration, in turn, is the sum of these small practices. You start acting not only in response to the environment, but in alignment with who you want to be. This alignment creates consistency, and coherence is what transforms dreams into realities. When what you think, feel, and do is in harmony, life responds clearly and fluidity. At this point, the subconscious is no longer just a passive repository, but an active ally. He works in your favor, reinforcing the beliefs you have chosen. If before he repeated old limitation patterns, now he automatically supports the new identity. You no longer need to work so hard to believe. The effort becomes naturally. Integration also involves recognizing that transformation is not linear. There will be days of advance and days of apparent setback. But even these setbacks are part of the process. They reveal where there are still old roots to remove. Instead of blaming yourself, you learn to observe with compassion and continue to nourish the new seeds. Over time, you will realize that what once required conscious effort becomes natural habit. You no longer need to remember to practice gratitude, it appears spontaneously. You no longer need to force yourself to believe in abundance, you just feel it. You no longer need to repeat that it is worthy of love. You live as someone who knows you are loved. This is the sign of integration, when practice becomes identity. Spiritually, this represents an awakening. You begin to realize that you are not just changing external aspects of life, but touching its essence. It discovers that peace does not depend on circumstances, but on consciousness. And that purpose is not something out there, but something that springs from within. This awakening puts it in tune with the larger flow of life where everything seems to fit harmoniously. Personally, integration translates into concrete results. You realize that your decisions become lighter, your healthier relationships, your most coherent opportunities. And when you look back, you realize that you are no longer the same person. The one who once sought desperately change now naturally lives transformation. This integration process also redefines the way you see miracles. They are no longer rare and extraordinary events and become part of everyday life. Each significant encounter, every unexpected answer, every sense of peace in the midst of chaos is recognized as a miracle. You no longer pursue them, but you live them. The key to sustaining this integration is in 3 daily practices: presence, gratitude, and repetition. The presence keeps you aware of the choices that reinforce your new identity. Gratitude opens the heart to receive more than it is already flowing. And repetition, especially during sleep, consolidates subconscious programming until it becomes irreversible. Over time, you will realize that the line between spiritual and personal transformation disappears. They merge into a single experience of living in alignment with their essence. Spirituality is no longer separate from practical life, and practical life becomes a natural expression of spirituality. This integration is the true state of fullness. When you keep listening to this audiobook, remember, each word is an instrument of integration. Each night is a brick placed in the construction of the identity you have chosen. And each morning is proof that this identity is manifesting itself. There is no hurry, no urgency. The process happens at its pace, but it happens inevitably. So you find that transformation is not a final destination, but a way of life. It is waking up every day knowing that it is constantly evolving. It is looking at yourself with compassion and admiration, recognizing how far it has come. It is living with the quiet confidence that miracles are no exceptions, but the natural language of aligned life. In the end, integration means that you no longer have to strive to believe that you are abundant, beloved, and guided. You are simply. This is the definitive identity, to be who you have always been in essence now, fully revealed in the world. We come to the point where all the way is. Practice becomes identity, lifestyle. Identity and the living witness lifestyle of the miracle. So far you have heard about the subconscious's invisible strength, how it shapes beliefs, behaviors, and realities. You have explored the night reprogramming, the manifestation of abundance, love, and purpose, and the integration of transformation. Now it's time to consolidate everything in one truth. The miracle is already happening, because you're already living in a new way. There is no need to expect a distant future to feel the change. The simple fact that you are here, open to this experience, is already a sign that the transformation has begun. Each night of delivery to the subconscious, every word absorbed in a state of sleep, every small synchronicity recognized in everyday life, all this is evidence that you are recreating your life from the invisible. The consolidation of this practice does not require additional effort, but delivers. The subconscious has already received the seeds. Now your task is to trust the process. Just as the farmer doesn't get off the seed every day to see if she is growing up, you don't have to question every moment if something is happening. You just need to water consistency, listen, feel, think, and allow life to do the rest. The secret for this transformation to become permanent is in 3 pillars: silent faith, constant practice, and confident delivery. Silent faith is one that does not need immediate evidence to believe. It is the soft conviction that even when nothing seems to have changed on the outside, something deep already moves inside. This faith does not shout, does not beg, does not despair. She simply trusts. Constant practice is night repetition. Just as you brush your teeth every day without wondering, listening to words that feed the subconscious should become a natural habit, not as an obligation, but as care for mind and soul. Each night of practice is like a stone placed on a bridge. Over time, the bridge is solid and safe, capable of sustaining it in any crossing. Confident delivery is the act of releasing the control. It is recognizing that it does not need to force the universe to act in its favor, because the universe is already in motion. Its part is to align the mind and the heart. The part of life is to bring the right circumstances at the right time. This is the state of flow in which miracles become natural. Spiritual transformation is shown at this time of delivery. You realize that it is not just someone trying to change, but a being in communion with greater intelligence. Spirituality is no longer theory and becomes experienced experience. You feel peace even in the midst of challenges because you know that everything is part of the process. You feel gratitude even for difficult situations because you understand that each of them is a disguised master. Personal transformation becomes visible in everyone's eyes. People begin to notice a different light on you. Perhaps they comment that it seems calmer, safer, more present. You no longer need to convince anyone of anything. His own presence is proof of what happens when someone aligns with the subconscious and awakens to his true essence. The closing of this process is not an end point, but a new beginning. This audiobook is not just something you heard once. He can be his journey companion, a constant reminder that each night is an opportunity to be reborn. Each time you return to these words, new meanings will emerge because you will be in a new stage of your transformation. Remember, the miracle is not just about attracting things, but in becoming the person capable of living them fully. There is no point in gaining abundance without feeling worthy of it. There is no point in living relationships if you don't feel worthy of love. There is no point in finding purpose if you do not believe you can accomplish it. Therefore, the most important work will always be internal. The outer world only reflects who you decide to be inside. At this point, I want you to imagine yourself walking toward a mirror. But instead of reflecting the image you have always known, the mirror shows who you are becoming. You see confidence, see serenity, see light. This reflection is not an illusion. It is the truth that the subconscious is revealing. Accept this view as reality. The more you accept it, the more it will become your daily life. When you end this journey, keep you a certainty. You have the key to transforming any aspect of your life in your hands. The subconscious is the fertile ground and you are the gardener. The seeds have already been planted. Now it's up to you to nourish, trust, and reap. And above all, remember that you are not alone. There is an invisible intelligence greater than you, which responds to every thought, every emotion, to every intention. This intelligence is the same force that keeps the stars in orbit, which makes the heartbeat, which sustains life. By aligning the subconscious with this strength, you not only attract miracles, you become a living miracle. Therefore, when you lie down tonight and every night you will come, allow yourself to dive into the quiet certainty that you are in the process of transformation. Release doubts, release fears, release the need for control. Inhale deeply, and when expanding, feel like you are releasing all the weight of the past. Let the words of this audiobook continue to resonate within you, like soft echoes that shape your new identity. And when you wake up, bring with it the confidence that each day is a chapter of the miracle. Live with gratitude, walk with purpose, love in depth. Because life, in essence, has always been a mirror of what you believe is possible. And now that you believe in miracles, miracles will become your natural state of existence.